be happy for your success are actually more interested in the idea of breaking you down because now you're an extra challenge for them. And this happens to a lot of successful women, especially when they become successful and they knew someone from the past. Let's talk about the red flags in the Wizard Liz and Landon's situation. Now, if you're not up to date with what happened with Wizard Liz and her fiance or religiously married husband, Landon, then here's a brief recap. As you know, Wizard Liz is a very popular influencer. Some might call her girl boss, influencer. She is well known for her tough love attitude in waking you up, helping you set boundaries with toxic people. And Landon is actually a man I believe she dated throughout 2024 before they got engaged. And he's in tech and video games, and he also has a YouTube channel. Now, around September 2024, the Wizard Liz announced her engagement, and Landon also basically revolved his Instagram around their engagement photo. Some people were kind of suspicious in the beginning because they thought that it was moving very quickly, but most of the fan base was very congratulatory and happy for her. And it's not that the people who were suspicious weren't happy for her, it's just that, because of how love bombing moves so quickly, people were right to be a bit cautionary about how fast the relationship was moving. And as it turns out, they were right, because the Wizard Liz posted a story basically sharing that not only was she 4 months pregnant, but that Landon had attempted to cheat on her, basically did cheat on her by doing this, by going on Snapchat and trying to invite a woman who he has invited out before, apparently. So this isn't his first time doing this or attempting this, to go out basically. And he claimed that he's just looking for friends, but then he set his Snapchat to delete all chats quickly as soon as the person started questioning him about being married. And he claimed that although the relationship isn't fake, it is not a real marriage. Now, Liz obviously denied this. She's 4 months pregnant. They're obviously in a real relationship. They did get married in the religious sense, although they haven't had a legal ceremony yet, I believe. And Landon is actually the one who shared some of the screenshots from Snapchat. So he actually incriminated himself even more by sharing this, because in the Snapchat, you can see him being very nonchalant about the fact that he's in an actual relationship with this popular influencer. And whenever the woman he is pursuing pushes back saying, "Aren't you married? Aren't you in a relationship? I don't want to hang out with married men," as she should. And she actually is the one who told Liz, thank God, thank you, Peyton. And that just goes to show his intent and his ability to deceive people and gaslight people and manipulate others. Now, another interesting aspect of this is that the way that this relationship actually began was years ago online. And many people claim or believe and theorize that Landon allegedly may have cyberstalked Liz in the beginning by studying her videos, finding out her vulnerabilities, her traumas, which she is open with. She is open about her childhood trauma online. So anybody who is looking to exploit that would be able to if they were going online to do that. And so he presented this perfect image, which unfortunately a lot of successful women tend to fall prey to, which is that he presented himself as a man who supported her success. And that can be very rare in a world where there's been actual studies that show that men tend to stay away from intelligent and high achieving women, even when those women are strangers that they know nothing else about, that they're attracted to. But once the researchers tell them, hey, this woman outperformed you on a test or is smarter than you in some way, that's when they start to withdraw and withhold. And they try to rationalize their sudden disinterest as attributing to something else, but they don't know anything else about the woman. And that's why you get people who are very threatened by smart and intelligent and successful women claiming that woman is domineering when in reality they don't know anything about her. You're just judging her on the fact that their ego was bruised by her mere presence. So when a successful woman like Liz encounters a man who's congratulating her on her success, it's very easy to fall into the trap of feeling like, oh, this is the one. This is the person who I'm meant to be with. Now, at that time, she didn't actually get involved in a romantic relationship with him. They texted back and forth, and she claims that they never really spoke after they both got into their own respective relationships. But Landon actually confessed on a recent YouTube video they did together, that he was thinking about Liz even in his previous relationship with his ex, which is a huge red flag because it shows that even when he's already in a romantic relationship, he still has a wandering eye. He still adored Liz. He was uniquely excited, as he said, to speak with her, to have any kind of attention from her. So it's probably the case that he continued to kind of cyber watch her throughout those years, even if he was in a relationship. And allegedly, there were people who found that he followed a number of explicit accounts on Instagram and tons of women online. So this is clearly a pattern for him. And as someone who is in the gaming community, he's also been criticized for, fanboying certain Twitch streamers and basically objectifying women for their look. There's been alleged rumors of him, video testimonies from people who said they hit on his 18-year-old sister in Miami last year. Now, that might have been when he and Liz were still dating. I'm not sure. Then there's another woman who came out saying that Landon actually dated someone that she dated a friend of a friend who was a bottle girl, and that was connected, and they were connected through a mutual friend of theirs. And his ex is actually another one of those 10 out of 10 attractive, extremely attractive women. So it's clear that he tends to go for looks primarily. Even if he claims to appreciate women as multifaceted, it seems like he's objectifying them, and that trying to prey on the fact that they're successful by congratulating them is actually one of his manipulation tactics. Because strong, independent, successful, intelligent women tend to be guarded. But when you congratulate them on their success, yes, it's true, they can let their guard down for a little bit because they think, oh, this man is different from the others. He actually appreciates my success. He appreciates my talents and gifts, and he wants to be part of my life and success. And I need a man who uplifts me and doesn't try to humble me. But here's the kicker. Successful women believe that when a man takes interest in their success, then he must be one of the good ones. Now, that's an automatic assumption that you shouldn't make, because sometimes those men who pretend to congratulate you and be happy for your success are actually more interested in the idea of breaking you down because now you're an extra challenge for them. And this happens to a lot of successful women, especially when they become successful and they knew someone from the past. That person from the past may come back to them and basically claim, oh, I've been watching your success. Like, I'm so proud of you. Let's meet up, let's catch up. And you don't realize at the time that that person is actually looking to exploit you in some way, shape, or form. They're looking to prey on your vulnerabilities, and basically humble you because their ego is threatened by you. And I think that is what happened to the wizard Liz here. Now, I just want to repeat again that everything in this video, well, most of everything in this video is alleged. And they're saying that maybe he planned this, right? And he keeps saying it wasn't calculated, it wasn't calculated. And whenever a narcissist tries to defend something and tries to say, it's not about you, that means it's exactly about you. So I grow suspicious and wary of his excuses. And I might actually include a clip of me analyzing one of his recent apologies. But let's also talk more about the red flags in this type of dynamic. Now, Liz and Landon claim that they actually first met in person a year ago at an airport. And Landon claims that he was scammed by his friends about going on a trip. And he and Liz both had a layover during their travels. And they had the same layover, and they happened to be in the same exact place. And Landon forgot his bag, and conveniently, that's exactly where Liz was now sitting, even though she was masked and unrecognizable. Now, a lot of people are wondering if this was actually planned and staged as fate, because as you know, these types of narcissistic manipulators, and I'm not saying that he's like a full-on narcissist. I'm not claiming anything about him specifically. I'm just saying these behaviors tend to be narcissistic. And he definitely shows some traits and behaviors, right? Because narcissists are all about short-term mating relationships. They're not about the long term. And even if they keep you around for the long term, you can bet they're doing emotional or physical cheating or both. So was it really the case that it was fate? Because these types of people, these manipulators, always tend to prey on your spiritual beliefs. And that's why I always recommend that you don't share any kind of spiritual beliefs that you have early on with someone before you observe their long-term behavior, because that gives them another source of ammunition to trap you, right? To pretend that your meeting is destiny, it's fate, it's a past life, it's a twin flame soulmate connection, when in reality it's more likely to be a karmic connection, if anything. If you do believe in that kind of connection, well, it would be probably karmic then, if you're mistreating her. So again, this kind of fated meeting was a red flag. Then he also said that he loved her and wanted to marry her within 36 hours, which is a huge red flag of love bombing. But I'm not sure exactly how he said it. Maybe he said it in a more joking way, or, oh my God, Liz, I love you. I want to get married to you. Like, I can see a guy saying that and getting away with it, even if it is love bombing, because in the early stages, you're in the honeymoon phase and you want to find your true love, right? You want to feel like this person is not a waste of time and they are actually invested in you. And he was invested in her in the beginning, right? The wizard Liz says he spent nearly $1 million on her. He gave her 750. He sent 750 roses to her apartment. Again, anyone who knows the signs of love bombing would easily detect this, but that doesn't mean that she didn't minimize it, even if she did feel suspicious of it, because she wanted to believe that this is something genuine. And when you have a self-concept, a high self-concept, the trap is that you may see love bombing as like, oh, of course they're obsessed with me. Of course they worship me because I'm someone who deserves to be worshipped. I'm someone who I deserve obsession, right? In that sense. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses or anything like that. I'm just saying that that might have been her perspective. And it's very easy to fall prey to these types. Again, even world-renowned experts on psychopathy, like Dr. Robert Hare, admits to being duped. So I don't believe in judging people harshly for falling for love bombing or manipulation tactics, especially if they've never really run into a full-fledged narcissist before. I know that Liz has a lot of, childhood trauma, but I'm not sure how much of trauma she has in past relationships. She seems like she is someone who holds strongly to her boundaries in most relationships and has exited the relationship when she felt like she was no longer growing. And maybe she hasn't met a romantic narcissist up until this point that was capable of so much calculated deception before. I'm not sure. Her followers, her more devoted followers, may know more about this. Obviously, like, I have seen her work and I know that, but I don't know the nature of all of her relationships or anything like that, so I can't speak to that. So yeah, we've gone through some of the first red flags. Again, emotional cheating in past relationships. Even though they claimed they didn't talk while they were both in their respective relationships, he expressed excitement about, Liz while he was with his ex. You have to watch out for men like that who are always looking for novelty, because they will never be satisfied, right, with their current relationship, no matter who it is. And that's not your fault. It's just the way their brain is wired. His involvement in the gaming community, even his Instagram following, like, people suggest that he was following a lot of explicit accounts. I didn't see it personally, but I've heard people say that. So it's all alleged, but if that is true, that is definitely a red flag. A wandering eye on social media can translate into a wandering eye in real life, and it is not something to be minimized because it does point to an objectification of women. And his pursuit of highly attractive women that people say are out of his league shows a certain sense of entitlement to these women without treating them correctly. And I think that's a huge red flag as well. Here, of having a wandering eye while they're already in a relationship, that it has very little to do with the woman being targeted, apart from her success and her prestige and all the resources that she has to target in the first place, and more to do with the person who's doing the targeting. Now, Landon is also part of the gaming community, and he has been since he was a teenager, if you look at his old YouTube videos. So clearly he grew up in that kind of misogynistic, pickup artist, sort of sometimes incel community where they are very sensitive to rejection by women. And so they try to find, let's say, unique ways of getting women's attention and devaluing them and pitting them against other women and feeling entitled to the most successful, most attractive women there in community. I have encountered people from the gaming community, and I've also encountered lots of women who talk about this type of gamer man who is out having Discord affairs, is so obsessed with video games that he really forgets to attend to the reality right in front of him, and he's always looking for what he thinks is the ideal woman. And he can go for, and he feels entitled to 10 out of 10 women in all aspects: looks, attractiveness, success, prestige, to have as a trophy. But he himself may not be a trophy. Now, is there a lesson that women can learn from this situation, similar situations that they may have been involved in? Yes. So, as you know, the 4B movement, which started in Korea, is also gaining momentum in the United States. And the 4B movement is all about decentering relationships for women. And you don't have to go to that extreme of all the principles of the 4B movement in order to take some sort of engagement in it. You can basically start by just deprogramming yourself of all the romantic notions that have been fed to you when you were young, as a woman specifically, because women are taught to center their relationships. Now, is there a lesson that women can learn from this situation, similar situations that they may have been involved in? Yes. So, as you know, the 4B movement, which started in Korea, is also gaining momentum in the United States. And the 4B movement is all about decentering relationships for women. And you don't have to go to that extreme of all the principles of the 4B movement in order to take some sort of engagement in it. You can basically start by just deprogramming yourself of all the romantic notions that have been fed to you when you were young, as a woman specifically, because women are taught to center their relationships, to do a high level of emotional domestic labor for their male partners if they're heterosexual. And this leads to marriage being a trap for them, right? Before, marriage used to be one of the primary ways that women could become financially stable because they didn't have access or the ability to create their own funds or have their own financial security. So marriage offered them that. So the standards for a good partner, so-called good partner, were incredibly low. And I don't think those standards have actually heightened over the years. Even as women gained access to resources and became successful and highly educated, they are still having to deal with people in the dating pool who are trying to humble them in some way, like the way that the wizard Liz was preyed upon. Of course, she decided she's not going to be in this relationship, which is great for her. She walked away at that first sign of cheating. So that was amazing, especially since she's 4 months pregnant. I think a lot of people might not have been able to do that, not just for financial reasons, but also emotional reasons, psychological reasons, right? You tend to minimize those types of things when you feel like maybe there's a chance that this person could get better, but they rarely do. So the fact that she was able to take that step shows the importance of financial security, of emotional security, of a self-concept that outlasts even when the person who seemed to be obsessed with you is no longer putting forth the same effort or is withholding from you or is devaluing you in some way, which narcissists tend to do, right? They idealize you and then they devalue you. And they try to replace you, which Landon seemed to be trying to do. Not necessarily replace. I think he wanted his cake and wanted to eat it too. And he thought that he could get away with it. Who knows how many times he's attempted this before, right? Getting caught. Liz only found out about it because the woman reached out to her, one of her friends. Otherwise, she would have never known. Well, she might have found out later, but I think that financial security is really important for women to remember that if you're a successful woman, you have to be extra cautious, extra selective about who you choose as a partner. But not only that, you may have to stay out of relationships for a while altogether, because as you build that level of success, you're going to have people who want to humble you, not just men, also women, female friends as well, but we'll talk about that in a different video. And you're going to have people who want access to your success and what made you you, right? There's a spiritual term in the community about this, about how people will try to take on your identity and try to have access to your resources and success, but they didn't have the adversity or the grit or the resilience to get there. So they don't deserve that access, right? The one who did the work, you're the one who has the talents, you're the one who has the gifts, and therefore you are the one who is entitled to your own success. So don't give up that access so easily. Center yourself. Don't center men. Don't center marriage. Don't center having children, because it's going to make you rush toward trying to have children with the wrong man just to have children. Now, if you're fine with that and that's your decision, I mean, I can't stop you, but then you're also involving a child in that, and they're going to have to know that that person was their father. So just remember that. There's been actual research that shows that there is a disparity in the psychological distress that women face, and actually both men and women have a slight decline in their satisfaction, their life satisfaction after marriage and after the honeymoon stage. There's only a slight spike in the honeymoon stage, right? So most women grow up conditioned to believe that their wedding day is the most important day of their life, that having children is their sole purpose. But if you look at communities like Regretful Parents or the child-free community, you can see that there's a different side to this. Communities that explore the actual risks involved in life-threatening pregnancies and getting involved with a man who may abandon you or your child or even cheat during pregnancy or leave you while you're ill. Again, men tend to leave women when they're ill and cheat on them when they're pregnant. And domestic violence can actually escalate during pregnancy, because that's when a woman is her most vulnerable and most invested. She's not only just invested in the relationship, but in the caretaking of her child. So always remember that and consider the risks of marriage for women, and deprogram yourself to the point where you no longer desire just marriage and children, and you desire doing that with the right person, or you don't desire them at all because that's not your authentic desire. A lot of women will find out if they ask themselves these questions and reflect very carefully that they don't actually want marriage. They want a wedding day. They want the social status of a marriage. They want the social status of being a mother, right? But they don't know all the risks and the consequences of being a mother. Now, there are women who love parenting and motherhood while acknowledging the difficulties of it and the risks, and understand that there are sacrifices, and they enjoy being a mother. You know, those women exist too. But I'm talking about the women who authentically don't desire those things and have been programmed to believe that they do. I think the Wizard Liz situation is waking up a lot of women to the fact that for a lot of women, they've been fed this notion that if they just find the right man, then everything in their life is going to be all right. But actually, it's backwards. Everything will be all right when you invest in yourself. When you build up financial and emotional security, when you chase your own dreams, when you invest highly in yourself, that's when you have the best opportunity to get involved with a partner who may be right for you, and also exit if they turn out not to be right, right? Because a man can wear a mask, a woman can wear a mask, anyone can wear a mask for a long time. But at least you have that security and knowing that you're a self-actualized person before you get invested and sacrifice the best years of your life chasing someone else who cannot be caught. So I hope this video helped. If you notice any other red flags of this relationship, or you have any other red flags from your own experience to share, please do so in the comment section below. I'll talk to you guys soon, and until next time.